Hello, my name is Tamara Wooten. I'm laughing because this is like the fifth time we're trying this, so let's see how it goes. My name is Tamara Wooten, and this is my theory presentation for Read 7271. I decided to do my reading theory on the construction integration process, and this process is composed of three parts: the construction piece, the integration piece, and the metacognition piece. The construction piece focuses on the reader connecting his or her understanding of vocabulary, sentence structure, and grammar to the read text for initial understanding of the strand of sentences. For example, take this sentence right here. Mary ate a croissant while in Paris. From this sentence, we're able to understand a variety of things. One, we're able to understand that she isn't currently eating this because of ate being past tense. We're also able to understand, hopefully, that for our students, depending on their age level and their understanding, that Paris isn't a city or a country that is in the United States of America, but that it is abroad, that it is afar. So from that, they get that if they have any understanding of Paris, they may think of the Eiffel Tower or French food or different things of that nature. Also, the word while tells us the word while, the meaning of that is at the same time. So when we read this, we see that Mary ate a croissant while in Paris. So when she was in Paris, she ate the croissant. We're also able to infer from this sentence due to the word ate, even if a student didn't necessarily know what a croissant was or had ever had a croissant, they're still able to gather that it is some type of food because of the sentence saying that Mary ate. They can infer that it's not a ball or it's not a wall. It's clearly something edible. So all of that goes into the first step of construction, which is that vocabulary, understanding grammar, all of those things that come together to make the physical sentence. The next step is integration. This step consists of the reader connecting prior knowledge to the read text and developing meaning from the text. For example, take the sentence, Shelley spent the entire afternoon cooking in hopes that her brother would enjoy the food. As she watched him eat, a bead of sweat began to drip down her face. From these two sentences, the reader can infer that Shelley cares about her brother's opinion as well as she is feeling nervous. Integration is the step where the reader reads what's on the page and then combines what past experiences and prior knowledge to what is being read. And from that, we're able to understand meaning from text that isn't necessarily explicitly said. For example, we can gather that Shelley cares a lot about her brother and his opinion because of the sentence saying she spent the entire afternoon cooking in hopes that her brother would enjoy the food. So we understand that she cares about, one, him eating, two, him liking it, as well as it's important to her that this all takes place. We're also able to infer from this where it says she is feeling nervous down here where I expounded on, where it says, as she watched him eat, a bead of sweat began to drip down her face. Although the sentence doesn't necessarily say she was so nervous she began to sweat, if you've ever been nervous or seen someone be nervous or anything of that nature, you're able to understand that because she is so anxious for him to enjoy the food, it has now caused her to be nervous, and her nervousness is causing her to sweat. So although all of that is not said, the integration process enables us to be able to put inferred meaning and prior knowledge to the meaning of the text and therefore develop understanding from what's being read. Sounded really smart when I just said that just now, I'm just saying. But anywho, metacognition is the last phase, it's the next phase. During this phase, the brain evaluates what has been read and comprehended through the first two steps and then decides if the produced meaning makes sense. For example, if we go back to the sentence, Shelley spent the entire afternoon cooking in hopes that her brother would enjoy the food. As she watched him eat, a bead of sweat began to drip down her face. The reader can, in this phase, during the metacognition phase, once they've read it, once they've combined their prior knowledge experiences, they can then say, yeah, that makes sense that she was nervous because she wanted him to like the food, or depending on someone's prior experience, maybe they had a parent who, when they cooked, would get very nasty towards them if it wasn't cooked well, and so now they're just anxious because they want the food to be good so that their parent doesn't throw the food in their face. Depending on their past experiences, to them when they read this, they may not see necessarily the love that Shelley has for her brother, but maybe the fear she has of his rejection of the food. All of that is based on that prior experience, and that metacognition kind of is the big brother of the brain that looks at what the brain has processed and says, yeah, that makes sense, or no, we need to go back and reread, or I don't know if that's the case or not. So all of that takes place during the construction integration process. Yes. The learning theory that I chose is the cognitive constructivist view of reading. Try saying that fast 5 times. But anywho, the cognitive, look as I try, the cognitive constructivist view of reading. According to the text, the reading process centers on the reader keenly searching for purpose when reading. Through this process, the reader fuses together the ideas of the text along with prior knowledge. So already you can kind of see how this learning theory overshadows the reading theory that we just learned about, the construction integration process. So an example of the cognitive constructivist view of reading is she looked into his eyes and saw the emotions that he had for her. He looked at her questioning if she felt the same way. She reached for his hand and he knew that she did. So if you've ever been in love or you've ever had someone like you, this sentence will make a world of sense to you, although it's not explicitly said, the different emotions that are taking place in this. When it says, for a 4-year-old, they may read it and not understand it, but for someone older who's been exposed to more and has prior knowledge to apply to this text, when you read it and it says she looked into his eyes and saw the emotions that he had for her. He looked at her, questioning if she felt the same way. So they're both looking at each other, and we won't get too deep into this, but she reached for his hand and he knew that she did. It kind of says a whole lot of nothing, but that combined with prior knowledge gives this text a world of meaning. And that's basically the cognitive constructivist view of reading supports how we apply what we've experienced or what we know or what we've seen to text to make meaning. Yes, readers actively search for meaning in what they read, and that the meaning they construct from a text depends on their own knowledge about the world and its conventions, aka what I just said. The construction integration process is born from the cognitive constructivism view of reading. Both theories deem that the brain is actively searching for meaning through the vehicle of prior knowledge. The construction integration process is an example of what takes place in order for comprehension to be accomplished. We accredit Jean P. It's late. Is it Piaget? Yes. Sorry. Don't laugh at me. You know how you read it, but you don't say it enough to know if it's the way you say it for sure or not? Yes. Piaget. So Piaget is who we credit for the theory of cognitive development. His research still impacts psychology, education, and current theorists today. According to Rowland, who is one of my references, cognitive development is the ongoing enhancement of the following skills: information processing, memory, conception, reasoning, perception, and language. He did a lot of research with school-age children, and his research showed that school-age children's understanding was shaped by their reasoning, and that as they continued to age and mature, their level of reasoning surpassed surpasses logic, and they are able to comprehend abstract thought and ideas. And in pre-K, it's a lot of things that you can, how sarcasm and different things of that nature, they don't respond to it because developmentally they're not mature enough to understand that. It goes over their heads, and that's kind of in alignment with Piaget's research. One theorist who was kind of born from Piaget's research, he kind of follows with him. They both align with each other as far as theories go, is Walter K. Let's call him Walter K. According to the Institute of Cognitive Science of University of Colorado at Boulder, he resides as a professor of psychology as well as neuroscience. Mr. Walter is recognized for the construction integration model. The model shows how construction, integration, and monitoring comprehension fuse together to produce comprehension in readers. And this is a rough copy of his model. Building the text base, which is the construction piece, building the mental model, which is the integration, and monitoring comprehension. Integrating literacy skills for a variety of learners. Model. This is something that teachers that sometimes we can take for granted, the benefits and the impact that it has on students. Whether a student is gifted, is learning with disabilities, or is an English language learner, modeling is an effective strategy when trying to build a variety of literacy skills in students. And basically, modeling is when the teacher demonstrates something for their students as opposed to giving them directions alone. And modeling, yes, it's a lot of planning that one can do to model elaborately, but a lot of the times, even just when you're reading a book and you say, I wonder why he was afraid when he went into the woods. Maybe he was afraid because there's a bear who's peeking behind the tree. That is demonstrating what mentally our mind is doing to students and helping them to understand what their brain should do when they're reading or just trying to reason alone. And now we will watch a video clip of modeling through Think Aloud.
I like to teach comprehension strategies by using Think Alouds. Think Alouds are when the teacher reads a text and draws attention to things that are going on in my mind. And things that I like to focus on are before reading strategies, so I have them posted in the classroom. So I have 2 posters that are focusing on before reading strategies. I have during reading strategies, and I have after reading strategies. And I'll introduce a text like this, which was one that we looked at the beginning of the year from our biography unit. And it's the story about Iqbal Masih, who is a child laborer from Pakistan. I'll ask the children, what's the purpose of reading the text? The purpose of reading the text is that it's part of our biography unit. What can you think about when we know that this is a biography? Well, it's going to probably be in chronological order, and something really important probably happened to this person, or this person did something really important, and that's why there's a biography about them. So the text form helps us, the purpose helps us. Text features are really important, and I'm really surprised sometimes that kids don't pay attention to them, so I try really as much as I can to draw their attention to it. So the title itself, The Story of Iqbal Masih, it's going to be his story. It's going to be his life story. And there are aspects of text and important features that are really going to help you understand what's going on in the story, so pay attention to them. It's also a good strategy to pull up previous knowledge. So is there another story that we've covered? Is there something that you know about child labor around the world that's really going to help you understand this story? A couple of the strategies that I focus on for during reading are to summarize what you've learned so far. I also like to talk to the kids about things that aren't answered in the text yet, that they might be wondering about. And in order to ensure that they're understanding, get them to retell, or I retell, or summarize what's gone on. And if I don't understand what's gone on, or something's a little bit confusing, they have to go back and reread it because that's a really good strategy for understanding. If they come across a word that they don't